Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are a subscriber, thank you for returning. If you are new here, my name is Rachel. My channel is called Rachel Went Shopping because I have a little bit of a shopping addiction and especially a passion for luxury, specifically handbags. Today I have an awesome video for you guys. I am going to be diving deep into some more educational historical facts about Louis Vuitton. A question I hear often is, why is Louis Vuitton so expensive? And a big piece of why they are so expensive is because of where and how they are made. Today I will be discussing where Louis Vuitton products are made, as well as a peek into the manufacturing process. And the timing is perfect because Louis Vuitton has just released a new coffee table book. Post-it notes not included, but this is the new book. It's called Louis Vuitton Manufactures, and the book is published with 𝒢𝓈, which you see down here at the bottom. So I will be talking about where Louis Vuitton products are made and doing a little bit of a review on this new book. If that sounds interesting to you, then you're gonna want to keep watching. So this book was just released this month. We are in February 2022. You can purchase this book on the Louis Vuitton website. It is available in a French version and an English version for $95. The style number for the English version is R08873. The style number for the French version is R08872. You can search those on the website to locate the book. The book is not available on Amazon yet, but who knows, maybe in the future at some point it will be. There is a collector's edition version of this book that is available for $1,900. That is an edition of 500 copies, and it comes in a poplar wooden box, which is a reference to Louis Vuitton's historic trunks. And if you want to see whether or not I recommend this book, then definitely stay tuned to the end of the video. I do want to show you guys how I received this book. I ordered it, I believe, on Thursday or Friday of last week. It was shipped very quickly. I think it was like 2-day shipping. I received it yesterday on Saturday. It came with, let me just show you, because honestly I was shocked how it was packaged. It came with this Louis Vuitton box, you know, with the ribbon. And then inside, the book was in a giant traditional Louis Vuitton dust bag. This is one that I feel like is the size of a Neverfull dust bag. And then I also got this catalog in a nice little package, my receipt, and some perfume samples of Spell on You. So I was kind of shocked with how well they packaged it. Yours may or may not come with a dust bag, not guaranteed. I've seen other people unbox it and it didn't have a dust bag, but mine did, so I was quite surprised by that. So first, let's answer the question, where are Louis Vuitton bags made? And then we're gonna dive into the book and get into the details. So I do have some notes here because I wanted to make sure that this was super factual for you guys. So if you see me looking off to the side, I may be referencing my notes and I apologize. I wanna start with a direct response from the Louis Vuitton website for the question, where are Louis Vuitton products manufactured? So according to this response in their FAQ, the Louis Vuitton leather goods collections are exclusively produced in our workshops located in France, Spain, and the United States. I personally have also had products made in Italy, so it is interesting that that is not mentioned, but again, just reading you their official response. The manufacturing of our footwear and ready-to-wear takes place in France and Italy. Our watches are exclusively produced in our timepiece workshop. It does not mention where, but thanks to this new book, I know that that is in Switzerland. Our jewelry collections are made in France, Italy, and Switzerland. Sunglasses are produced in France and Italy. In all of our workshops, the choice of the finest material, the experience of our craftsmen, and the extreme care devoted to each phase of the manufacturing of our products perpetuate and renew our tradition of excellence and refinement. So that is what the official answer says. I will say that based on date codes and my knowledge and research of date codes, other countries that Louis Vuitton manufactures in include Germany, Belgium, where I believe some scarves are made, as well as the United Kingdom. So speaking of date codes, let's talk a little bit about date codes and microchips, because this is a big part of learning more about your item and where it is manufactured. I don't want to spend too much time on date codes because I could do an entire video, but I do want to point this out. You can Google a full list of updated date codes. I will flash some up on the screen. It's important to note that this list is not comprehensive. It is difficult to find a website that completely maintains it at all times, and Louis Vuitton is constantly opening new facilities. So it is possible that you have a date code that is not on this list, but the first two letters of the date code represent the facility where your item was manufactured. So you will see that there are a lot of codes here, and we are going to discuss the facilities that are discussed in this book, but it is not all encompassing of all of the codes, all of the facilities that exist. I personally love date codes. I love reading the date codes on my items because that gives me a little bit of history on my personal item that I own as to where it was made and when it was made. I think that the microchips are a cool idea. I also like the fact that they will help combat the fake market. However, I don't like that customers don't have access to that information. So when I'm referring to microchips, I am referring to the fact that starting in March 2021, Louis Vuitton started removing date codes from their products, and they now use NFC microchips that can be scanned with an NFC scanner. However, only Louis Vuitton employees have access to the information that are stored on those. If you scan it with your phone with an app, for example, you will not have access to that information. So as a customer on an item that is microchipped, you no longer have access to the information of where it was made and when it was made. Either way, pertaining to date codes, I just wanted you to be aware that there are quite a few manufacturing facilities that Louis Vuitton has, and not all of them are mentioned in this book. In fact, the book only dives deep into 13 of those manufacturing facilities. The date code on my 𝒞𝒽𝒶𝓅𝓉 bag is MI0241. That means that this was made in the 4th week of 2001. And I know that MI is a French facility. It also says here, made in France, which corresponds to the date code. I won't be able to get a good shot of the date code on camera, but I can show you. It is right there. I don't know if I can get it to focus in, but it is stamped in gold. That brings me to the next topic that I wanted to discuss, which is heat stamps. Your bag will always say Louis Vuitton Paris stamped on it somewhere on the bag. In the example that I just showed you, it's right here. You see Louis Vuitton Paris, and then below it, you see made in France. I'm sorry if it's not zooming in. A old pochette accessoire. Here you see Louis Vuitton Paris, and below it made in France. So those are just a few examples of what I'm referring to as a heat stamp. Just the stamp alone, Louis Vuitton Paris, does not mean that the item is made in France. This is a French brand, therefore everything is stamped with Louis Vuitton Paris. But if you want to see where it's actually made, you have to look for the made in stamp. That made in stamp will correspond to the date code, kind of like I just referenced on this bag here. So this bag says made in France. The first two letters of that date code also correspond with what we know as a French facility. Therefore, this bag is authentic and it is made in France. This is not an authentication video though. If you're interested in that, let me know down below in the comments. But those are two common things to look at when you're authenticating a bag. Unfortunately, because date codes are no longer a thing though, you can't really use that as an authentication factor anymore. There are plenty of other things to look for when you're actually authenticating a Louis Vuitton bag though. So one other thing I want to point out when talking about Louis Vuitton manufacturing and facilities is that while some facilities do specialize in specific areas like Italy in shoes and Geneva in watches, there are some leather facilities that specialize in, just like city bags, and there can be multiple leather facilities in multiple regions. So your Neverfull, for example, could be made in either the USA, France, or Spain because they have leather facilities in each of those regions. So one bag is not necessarily only made in one facility or one region. This is something very understood and known by Louis Vuitton fans and collectors, but it is not something that is necessarily understood by new buyers, so it's an important tip to point out. If you actually go to the Louis Vuitton website and you pull up a product page for a popular item like the Neverfull, I'll show you on the screen there. If you scroll down to the detailed features section, you'll see the language that says the reference, meaning the item, is either made in France, Spain, Italy, or in the USA. So this is telling you that the bag can be made in any of those areas, and you wouldn't know for sure until you receive the bag, and you used to be able to tell from the date code. Now you would have to just read the made in stamp on the item itself to see where it's made. You do not have the option to select where that item is made, especially if you're shopping online. But if you're in store, you prefer something to be made in a specific country, then you can use your discretion there. But I do want to talk about this specifically in this video, which will pertain to this book, that it really should not matter where your item is made, because all of the techniques and training for creating Louis Vuitton items should be the same. And I think when you see the facility and the artisans, you'll see even more that there is no difference in where your bag is made. Okay, so now that we got some of the basics out of the way, let's dive into this new book. It is to these remarkable buildings and the remarkable people who work in them that this book is dedicated. So when you first open this book, you've got a nice intro here, and that is sort of what I'm going to talk through first. So from this point on in the video, everything that I am telling you is directly in reference to this book, including some direct quotes. I'll link it down below if you want to buy it. If something is my opinion, I will share that it is my opinion. Otherwise, it is in direct reference and fact from this book. So the book opens speaking about King Louis XIV, who is also known as the Sun King. He promised the glittering sunlight future for France. It is mentioning a statue of him that is in the Louis Vuitton Place Vendôme store, which is this bright brass statue of him in a costume with, I think, either feathers or sunlight coming out. I will put a picture on the screen, and he is of course wearing Louis Vuitton. So the book is sort of talking about the combination of these two Louis, and that they both represent these worlds of splendor and luxury. You've got the magnificent and opulent castle of Versailles, which is a symbol of Louis XIV.
This, madame, is Versailles.
And then you have this, just to quote, 19th century luggage maker who became the epitome of 21st century modern luxury.
That is a Louis Vuitton.
And it discusses how these greater symbols of luxury and opulence have a deeper truth to them, really what truly makes them luxury. So another quote here, Louis XIV was a man who restored France to leadership in the creation and experience of luxury. And it remains that way today. When we think of luxury, we think of things that are produced in France. It just has this aura around it, right? So it is mentioned that the France we know today is not the France that it was when Louis XIV started his reign. As a father, he felt shame knowing that his son, his heir, was playing with toys that were actually made in Germany because those of French manufacture were inferior. During his reign, however, that pendulum of luxury would return to France, and they would reclaim their role as the center of luxury and innovation in Europe. Then it goes into how this was possible because France was a country where craftsman was king. So that is sort of discussing Louis XIV and how he brought luxury back to France. Then it flips to the Louis Vuitton side and it says, when asked about the quality that most defines Louis Vuitton, CEO Michael Burke has no doubt. Fundamentally, it's not about luggage, it's about innovation. Innovation came before luggage. The reason why Louis went into business himself is because he wanted to innovate and create something different than what was on the market. He also talks about how historically as a brand, Louis Vuitton himself insisted on making a great majority of the leather products in France 30 years ago. That while a lot of manufacturing was getting moved out of the region, for example, leather goods moving to Italy, silk left Lyon and went to Como, and watchmaking left France and established itself in Switzerland. So really it's tying together the two Louis. You have Louis XIV, who wanted France to be the epicenter of luxury again. And then you have Louis Vuitton, who was one of the brands that set up this craftsmanship and this artistry that was centralized in France. And 30 years ago, the brand fought really hard to keep majority of the manufacturing in France because they wanted to make sure that it maintained its status as like the mecca of luxury manufacturing. Today, that tune has changed a little, which we'll discuss more in a little bit, but they're sort of drawing together the connections that these two Louis had and how important they were for France and the luxury business as we know it today. Next, the intro gets into talking about the actual artisans themselves and that they are not what you imagine when you think of artisans in your head. They have long hair, they have tattoos, they are young, and he's emphasizing how young these artisans are. It says, Louis Vuitton ateliers employ modern people making goods for the modern world using techniques and tools that would be familiar to the company's founder. At Louis Vuitton, the idea flourishes that a workshop can be a place of fulfillment and individuality, a place where traditional craft skills can be learned, respected, continued, and transmitted by those who defy the outdated image of the elderly craftsman hunched over at his workbench. I feel like when we talk about luxury and craftsmanship, everybody in their head is picturing like some old guy with a mustache with like a wooden hammer and some nails, like constructing your handbag. I know that's like what I imagine in my head when I think of handbags being made. But you will see very clearly in the book that that's not what it is. It is very much made up of new, young talent that is being taught and trained in this beautiful handmade trade. And I've also seen images of Hermès facilities, for example, that have the exact same vibe. They have new young talent being trained as artisans. And I feel like that's just not what people think of when they think of these workshops. So I'm really excited that we got a book like this to sort of show us what these people look like that are making these beautiful bags. It specifically mentions these are young, hardworking, passionate people who enjoy making stuff with their hands. That while anyone can have an idea, the skilled hands of artisans are needed to give those ideas the gift of life. For example, the light up 𝒞𝒽𝒾𝓃𝒹𝓈, that this was something conceptualized by Virgil Abloh. You know, he's the creative director. He comes up with this idea, but then it's the team of people that work there that actually put everything together to make sure that this thing can function and they bring it to life, right? And this truly is the representation of the innovation that Louis Vuitton is going after. They're bringing a bag that has been around from the 1930s and they're bringing it into the 21st century, right? This is the future and the future of Louis Vuitton. And then it also goes on to say these 21st century creative types wouldn't be successful if they hadn't learned from the past. Instead of copying the past, they're understanding it and serving it up in the 21st century way. This also, like, I would love to do a separate video on Virgil Abloh and his impact on fashion and sort of the criticisms that he gets. I personally am a huge Virgil Abloh fan. He is a huge loss for the fashion community, but I just think he was the perfect person to be at Louis Vuitton, and it sort of speaks to what I just was talking about, the innovation and sticking to the codes and the history of the brand, but reintroducing things in the future. And that is really what he did. The other thing I just want to talk about is innovation. In my opinion, Louis Vuitton is one of the most innovative luxury brands. I believe they were first to market in just selling their goods online, right? Who remembers 𝒢𝓊𝓎'𝓈.com? I specifically remember that website and Louis Vuitton being sold online in that early .com era. And even today, things like the light up 𝒞𝒽𝒽𝓈, the things they do with technology, the things they do with marketing, I think that Louis Vuitton is at the forefront of innovation. And that goes back to the history of Louis Vuitton, and I will do a separate video. He himself was an inventor. He was not just a craftsman, right? He kind of, like I already mentioned what Michael Burke had said, at the time, trunks were rounded on top. They weren't easily stacked. They were made of leather. They got moldy. Louis Vuitton invented the flat top trunk, right? So that they could be stacked for easier travel. He invented invented this canvas material that was waterproof and easier to get wet or get dirty during travel. So those are all inventions and innovations. It's not just creating beautiful things. And I do think that Louis Vuitton as a brand lives up to that today a lot better than some of the other luxury brands. Then it shows this photo, which this is a photo of Louis, George, and Gaston Vuitton with Artisans in 1888. But then this photo is from 2020. So here you have pictured Bernard Arnault, who is the chief executive of LVMH, the entire parent company, one of the richest men in the world. You have his daughter here, Delphine, I believe is her name. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. You have Michael Burke here. He is the CEO of Louis Vuitton. He's quoted a lot in the book. And then you have two actual Louis Vuitton family members here. You have Benoit, who is the great grandson of Louis Vuitton. And then you have, I am not for sure, but I think this is Pierre Vuitton. Don't quote me, but he looks like his dad. They are both the sons of Patrick Vuitton, who I believe passed away in 2019, and he was an integral part of Louis Vuitton's growth and development. So these two, I believe, are the family members of Vuitton. Can we talk about, though, the items in this? Look at this multicolored trunk. How incredible is that? I would die to own something like that. You've got this Steven Sprouse trunk here, and then of course the Supreme trunk. So just in history here, you have the gray trunk, which was the original. You've got then the stripes, the damier, and finally the monogram. And then obviously how it's progressed through the ages. Really cool picture of modern day Louis Vuitton with some artisans. The book then goes on to talk about the direct connection between the artisans, the workshops, and the studios, which is where the designers, the creative directors work. They come up with the concepts, the ideas, and then the artisans actually bring them to life, right? Equally important for the creative directors to go to the places where these things are made and soak in the history and the techniques and everything that is going into bringing these products to life. It's very important for the creative directors to draw from the history and the codes of the house when they're making their collections. The next part talks about what I had mentioned previously, where they had wanted to keep all of the manufacturing in France previously to make sure that France remained an epicenter of luxury. But today they have a different perspective on that. It mentions that Louis Vuitton doesn't want to be constrained by geography. They want to go where the talent is. It mentions some less predictable locations, like the new Texas facility in the United States called 𝒢𝓊𝓎𝓈. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. That was opened in 2019. It does mention that they've done production in the USA though since 1955. It specifically mentions that they do not factor in the location of the workshop relative to their main offices or where clients are. They specifically go where the talent is. For example, the best watchmakers located in Geneva, the tanneries outside of Florence, shoe manufacturing in Italy, and silk in Como. They also talk about how learning how to make comes before learning how to sell. They want to master that item and that industry where it is known to be the best, and then they'll go outside and sell it to their customers after they've sort of perfected it, right? And they use watches as an example there. The trunks, though, for example, are still made in the original workshop. I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, Agnès-sur-Seine, using techniques and tools that date back to the days of Napoleon III. And that is like one of the coolest things to me about Louis Vuitton and craftsmanship, is just knowing the history of these techniques and how it's trained from generation to generation. And that is all the love that is going into each of these individual items that are being produced. They also speak with Benoit Vuitton, who mentions that there are never more than 300 people working in these facilities. Even if there are more than that, they are divided then into two places. They want to maintain this family feel, and they don't want any of the facilities to be too big. So everyone knows each other other, which is better for nurturing these skills. They can feel comfortable going and asking each other for help. It is not like working in a manufacturer where you're in your seat sitting alone. They want to nurture the transmission of these skills and techniques. Personally, I love that. I love that they're trying to keep it small and fun and family oriented and really nurturing these skills for young people to create lifelong careers. This is not talked about in the book. This is my personal opinion. But unfortunately today with Made in China, it has been ruined by mass production. And the worst part about it too is how those workers are treated. And they're sitting on these lines. They have to meet certain quotas. They're usually confined to dorms that may or may not be the best living conditions. And that is, I think, why Chinese manufacturing is looked down upon, because it's not fun for anyone. It's people crammed in these areas that have to meet deadlines that are usually paid low wages, and they are not necessarily enjoyable working conditions. That said, I'm sure there are good and bad, but what they're sort of pointing out in this book at Louis Vuitton, which I think stands out for a luxury brand, is that this is a talent and skill that is taught and nurtured. It is a great working experience. They all look happy. The facilities are beautiful. It seems like a wonderful opportunity. This picture here is a photo from 1903 of artisans transmitting skills to young apprentice trunk makers. In my opinion, these jobs are so much cooler and so much more rewarding than corporate jobs. And easy for me to say, I guess. I don't even have this job, but to me, this is so interesting and so cool. I mean, these are regular people, right? that are making these items for us that we love and we cherish. They might even be watching this video. How crazy would that be? Comment down below if you're a Louis Vuitton artisan. I wish we could interview one on the channel, but I'm sure that's like against the rules. But to me, this sounds like a super cool and rewarding job. And I hope that working at Louis Vuitton is as nice as they make it seem. Every company has its ups and downs. That's for sure, right? But it seems like a pretty beautiful, interesting company to work for. So finally, before we jump into the facilities, to wrap up this sort of intro section, it talks about how Benoit's father, Patrick, who I mentioned previously, who passed away in 2019, he set up the first workshop outside of Paris in 1977. It was in the south of France. I'm not even going to butcher the name. I'll throw it on the screen for you. But that is sort of when they started expanding outside of France and opening up facilities where the talent was and expanding. Lastly, it talks about how in business school, you learn to specialize and master in one thing, but at Louis Vuitton, they challenge that. They strive to achieve excellence everywhere and in all the different trades. They don't want to be good at one thing. They want to master everything. This is the closing statement here, which I think is also from Benoit, which is, we have no other possibility than to innovate and to create. So they're really driving home that Louis Vuitton is just about innovation into the future and maintaining that mastery of luxury with these skilled craftsmen. So I really enjoyed that little lesson and information about Louis Vuitton. Next, it goes into each of the facilities and it talks about 13 different facilities, which I have all pinpointed here, and I will briefly show you and tell you about what they make. So the first one mentioned here, which is located in Agnières-sur-Seine, France. It is the Atelier des Aignées. I'm, oh my God, butchering this. Please forgive me. But this facility was founded in 1859, where artisans produce rigid luggage, and it is currently dedicated to special orders. It is located near Paris to ensure fast delivery of raw materials by rail and river. It looks lovely. Show you some pictures. Of course, buy the book if you want to see more. And then here we see our first young looking artisan making the trunks. You see all the different pieces here. You've got all of these young people working there, and you can see that it's just like wide open where they're working. You can ask each other questions and see what other people are working on. They're all wearing different outfits. They're not wearing uniforms. They get to have individuality. Some tattoos, like they mentioned. So these are the young people that are creating the objects that we are cherishing, right? They look like cool, normal, fun people. Here they're applying some glue and then using these like clamps to then hold it together so that the glue can dry. There you go, another shot of young artisans. All the cool special order trunks are made in this facility. This says each of the people who appear in this book is living evidence of the triumph of skills that are valued, respected, and nurtured. Founded in 2010, the Louis Vuitton Leather Working School ensures the transmission of the Maison's techniques of excellence based on the mentorship model. And I'm assuming this is like part of the training facility, which is super cool. The next place that it covers is where the perfumes are made. I don't know how to say it, guys. It's in Grasse, France, which is the pinnacle of perfume making in the world. The facility looks beautiful. The garden on this estate is a fragrant Eden to be discovered throughout the seasons. Lots of beautiful pictures here of just all of this greenery that they have at their hands. And this is where the perfume is produced. I'm not going to show you every picture. He is in charge of the perfume department. I'll put his name up on the screen because I'm not going to butcher it. Lots of pictures of things that create scents. Producing emotions is what I'm trying to do every day by inventing, by creating, by innovating step by step. Next, this one's kind of cool, guys. This is the Atelier des Doucets, and that is in Normandy, France. Look how cool that is. I don't know that much about Normandy aside from the Battle of Normandy, but this was opened in 2001 and 2006. The two Doucet workshops manufacture leather goods, particularly city bags, as well as personalizations and various original creations for runway presentations. This looks incredible. This town, I would love to visit there. But here they're showing two examples of what looks like both embossing and debossing. One is stamped into the leather and one is lifted above the leather. You also see here the personalization, which looks like some sort of a screen printing technique. Here, this is super cool, guys. This is a picture of quality testing, and quality testing is very different from quality assurance. I want to do a whole video on quality testing, but it looks like they do a lot of this in-house, which is really cool. So they're probably doing a test on this bag to see how much weight it can hold or how much damage it will be done by shaking it about a certain amount of times. I have a lot of experience with quality testing though, and I would love to tell you more about that. Not at Louis Vuitton, but just in product development. Here, you've got a young artisan creating a runway piece that again looks screen printed. This is such a cool shot of how they make the empreinte leather, which I love. The next facility here is in Italy. This workshop is a modern jewel box encompassing all of the techniques of fine shoemaking. So this facility, I'm not gonna try to pronounce it, it's for shoes. It also apparently has an art gallery at the facility, and then it's showing you shoemaking, the soles being glued onto the bottom of the shoes. Even the sneakers are made in Italy. All of the traditional shoemaking techniques are shown here, which is really cool. The next facility is in France, opened in 2020. This atelier specializes in precious leathers. It produces the exotic leather goods, and this section has some amazing pictures of the exotic leathers. If you're interested in exotics, I think they're so unique and precious. This beautiful bag getting its glazing. Another happy artisan. I'm sure they felt super corny taking all these pictures. I can only imagine. But there are lots of beautiful pictures, guys. The next one, also in France at the Place Vendôme, talks about where the high jewelry is made. Place Vendôme is the prestigious heart of high jewelry. It also mentioned previously in the book that they used one facility to select the stones and another facility to set the stones, But yes, some beautiful pictures of the jewelry making process. Next is 𝒢𝓉'𝓈, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, in Texas, USA. So this is what the facility looks like in Texas. It looks beautiful. It looks very Texan. This ultra-modern workshop on an expansive ranch has been specially designed for leather working, balancing artisanal heritage and technical innovation. This atelier promotes the expertise of local artisans, which the Maison has developed through special training. And then it shows you a bunch of pictures of Texas. They did mention that this is the only facility they've ever had a barbecue at. Again, it looks like it has a fun family atmosphere. Here's inside the facility, very similar to their French facilities, open settings, able to ask each other questions. Here is a great shot of the cool young people that work at the Texas facility. She is wearing, looks like some human-made Stan Smiths. He's wearing some Air Force Ones. These are cool young people that are learning the skill of making handbags. What a cool job. Here is cutting the materials. How cool you guys look making never fulls. I know a lot of your favorite bag. How cool would it be to make your own Louis Vuitton bag and to be carrying the bag that you made? That probably feels so incredibly special. Some more pictures of creating the bags. Happy people. So this person looks like they're doing some quality assurance, measuring the distance of the pattern there. And I know a lot of people have gripes with quality, but you have to realize that there is a human doing this job and things fall through the cracks. That's the way it is. That doesn't mean that the overall brand has problems. Maybe they need to insist on a little bit more higher standards, but that is somebody's job to check the quality of the products as they are completed. Some more shots of people, someone making a pochette Matisse here. This is a cool shot showing you how the material is cut. They use lasers to cut the materials to make sure that they're getting every inch of the piece. The next facility is in Place Vendôme. It is where the atelier showcases the expertise of embroiderers, feather workers, pleaters, and they create the exceptional garments, including looks for the red carpet and custom designs for clients. So it shows you pictures there. We've got some pleating here, all the red carpet looks, all their beautiful work, some exceptional beading. Often sites of historic interest or outstanding natural beauty will have a Louis Vuitton workshop nearby. Then you have this facility here in Geneva, Switzerland, which of course is located in the capital of watchmaking. Since 2014, they manufacture the watches. And you can see all of the tiny little pieces that go into watchmaking. The next facility is back to France, and this is the women's ready-to-wear facility. This is where the prototypes for the women's ready-to-wear collections each season are conceived, designed, and produced, tirelessly pursuing perfection with meticulous detail. I would guess that this is where Nicolas Gasquier's team is putting together all of the collection pieces. There you go. Next, you've got another French facility which specializes in leather goods. This is a 6,000 square meter facility, and it is composed of flexible modular spaces equipped for high performance, adaptable to the various stages of production. More young people collaborating. She is making a bag there, assembling bags. Here is a big picture of what appears to be a laser cut machine that is probably cutting each of the individual pieces to make the bag. Final construction details. Ooh, look, plastic. So I know we've seen some videos where Louis Vuitton employees do mention that the bags do ship wrapped in paper and plastic, and they unpack them at the store before they are sold to customers. This one is another facility in the French Alps dedicated to leather goods and rolling luggage. This workshop replaces the one that Patrick Vuitton built in 1977. So they replaced it in May 2011 with this new facility that meets high environmental quality standards. Another beautiful setting and young artisans. There's keep-alls, rolling bags. Our vocation has always been to adapt to new forms of travel and to innovate by anticipating them by creating the luggage of the future, said Michael Burke. So again, this is a luggage facility. You'll see there's some handles being made. There is the mirror keep-all, some more young, happy employees. And then this is the final facility that is shown in the book, which is the men's ready-to-wear facility, which is in Paris. Develops the models for each season's collections and fashion shows. It brings the studio's design sketches to life. I can only imagine this is where Virgil Abloh and his team would sit and where his creations would come to life. Beautiful new spring summer 2022. So there's a lot of updated new product featured in this book. Here's a CAD drawing. This picture here shows two young team members. You see a stack of shoe boxes behind them, including Nike. Lots of design studios, product development studios reference other brands' products for inspiration. They do shopping trips. They go buy competitive products that they incorporate. That's just my opinion. You did see a Nike box stacked in the background there. So that is the book, guys. It is, again, dedicated to the remarkable people that work at Louis Vuitton. How interesting was that, right? We saw so much diversity, age diversity, race diversity, gender diversity, but ultimately this young, innovative, skilled craftsmanship feel. One thing that I wanted to point out was looking at the pictures of the employees at the French facilities compared to the employees at the Texas facilities were no different. So no different in terms of age, gender, diversity, etc. Meaning I feel like people in their heads think that 80-year-old artisans in France making their bags, but that's not the case. All of these employees appear to receive the same training, have access to the same materials, the same tools to make the items themselves. So with that said, there hypothetically should be no difference between products made in USA versus made in France versus made in Italy, etc. And I think this book does a good job depicting that and maybe educating consumers on what the whole manufacturing process looks like. There are plenty of beautiful pictures in this book that I did not show you, obviously, and it goes over those 13 facilities in photographic detail. I think this book is really cool. It puts photographs and faces to the brand and the manufacturing process. It expresses why these things are considered luxury and the craftsmanship that goes into them. I do wish that more brands would produce documentation like this. It is a cool coffee table book, right? But it's also a marketing strategy because they are showing you, the customer, what goes into these luxury products, therefore why they cost so much. And I think as a consumer, it's important to understand what you're paying for if this is something that you're passionate about. Not everybody has an appetite for $1,000 plus handbag, that's for sure. I think this book also plays a small part in answering the question on why Louis Vuitton is so expensive, but I would love to make another video on that question, sort of outlining a lot of the things that contribute to why the brand is so expensive and maybe worth that much as well. I think this book for $95 is worth it, especially if you are a fan of the brand, a collector of the brand. I personally would not be interested in the $1,900 collector's edition. You get everything you need from this beautiful book right here. One thing that I would say is missing for me that is not covered in this book is raw materials and where the raw materials are made and where they come from. That is a big unknown for me because, of course, the materials themselves, the canvas itself is made somewhere and then it is brought to the manufacturing facility where it is then constructed into your bag. So we do not get a look into that process or where that comes from in this book. I also think we saw a lot of the France facilities, one Italian facility. We saw the watch facility in Geneva. We didn't see any of the facilities in Spain. I would be very curious to have seen some more location diversity, but I know they wanted to cover all the big product categories, so that's probably why they chose the ones they did. But I would be very interested in seeing some of those other regions. I'm happy they showed the USA though, because I think that puts a lot of people's thoughts about that facility into perspective. We saw the facilities where the ready-to-wear is made for both men's and women's, as well as the special order apparel, but we did not get to see where that stuff is more mass produced and what that looks like. So I would have loved to have seen a little more into that world, even the silks, the hats, things like that. And I think it's just very important for luxury brands to be more transparent with their customers. If they are going to sell these products as luxury and charge such expensive price points, I believe as a consumer, we deserve to know more about the heritage of the brand, how it's being produced, what exactly is going into this craftsmanship that they're claiming. So I love things like this, and I do think that Louis Vuitton does one of the best jobs of showing that to us. I hope you enjoyed this sort of review and deep dive into this book. I hope you purchase one yourself if you are a fellow Louis Vuitton lover. This was more of a coffee table book, but if you guys love fashion books like me, please let me know down below in the comments. I would totally be open to starting some sort of a book club type series on my channel, so let me know. I would love to discuss more cool fashion books with you guys. If you found this content helpful, if you enjoyed hearing about it, please give it a thumbs up. I truly enjoy making these educational, historical videos. This is where it brings me the most passion in luxury and why I collect luxury. They also take the longest to make. This video is going to take me forever to edit, so I have to sprinkle in quick unboxings here and there, but I do love making these types of videos and you will be seeing more of them. So if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.